Okay, so chapter 16 of Tanya. So up until now, we learned that we should just try to perfect our behavior and we shouldn't worry about the emotions. But we come to the Alter Rebbe now for a private audience, and he says, are you doing mayach shalat al lev? Are you exercising self-control? And the answer is yes. But how do you feel about it? So you're doing it, but there is still a lot of tension because your actions are in one place and your emotions are somewhere else. So imagine a rubber band. If this is your insides and this is your outsides, and there's a rubber band connecting them, it's not in the same place. So you're stretching, right? But how long could you stretch for? What's going to happen? Either the rubber band will pop if you're stretching too much, or eventually it will lower itself. The actions will lower themselves to match the emotions. Maybe the emotions will be a drop higher, but the actions will be a drop lower, and you'll find some kind of comfort zone. But we need another tool. We need another tool in order to help us that the emotions should be on the same page, somewhat or more than they are up until now with the actions, so that we shouldn't have we shouldn't be feeling like there's a rubber band that's being pulled and stretched in two different directions that we're about to plot because we can't handle it, because we're white knuckling, we're working so hard that our behavior should be perfect and our emotions are completely somewhere else. We want to do one thing and we're forcing ourselves to do something else. So this is where chapter 16 comes. So when we come again to the Alter Rebbe, it's not that we didn't follow his advice. We followed his advice 100%. But now that we are where we are, now we find ourselves in our service of Hashem. Now we need more tools. Now we need more help for our spiritual service because we have advanced. So the new tool that we're going to get in this chapter is also called mayach shalit al halev, but it's a deeper level of mind rules the heart. So up until now, mind rules over the heart meant impulse control. Now there's a deeper level of mind rules the heart, which is the new tool that we're going to get right now. And that is that through using your mind rules the heart. Through using your mind, you are going to try to think about the greatness of Hashem and to generate, through thinking about the greatness of Hashem, you're going to try to generate emotions. Because we already learned in chapter 3 of Tanya that what's the makeup of the soul? We have intellect and we have emotions. And the emotions come from the intellect. So you want to create emotions. So what should you do? You have to get the intellect going. And we learned in chapter 4 that we have the power to think about whatever we want, to dwell on behaviors is something that every one of us could do. We all have that impulse control. So we are in control of what we want to dwell on. So I have the power to dwell on thinking about the greatness of Hashem. Thinking about it is what's going to create emotions. Now, as soon as I have emotions, as soon as I create emotions, then it's going to be easier for me to do the behaviors because the emotions are coming closer to the behaviors. So that's basically what we're trying to do. We're trying to get our emotions in sync a little bit more with our behaviors. And the way to do it, we spoke about it last class a little bit. The way to do it, there's just two ways. Either I could create new emotions, or I could wake up emotions that I have inside of me. So chapter 16 and 17 is talking about creating new emotions. And then 18 through 25 is going to be talking about revealing emotions that I have inside of me. And then after 25, we're going to go back to talk about more about creating new emotions. So from this point in Tanya and on, it's all going to be about how to how to wake up or create love and fear, so that when I do a mitzvah, I shouldn't just do it because I feel like I'm forced to, because I have to, but rather because I want to. Now, so you're all going to look at me and say, oh, that's very great. But if I sit and I start thinking about the greatness of Hashem, first of all, Beilufka's not here, but she would say, come on, give me a practical meditation. I need a practical meditation. What should I just think about? The Tanya doesn't give you a practical meditation, but the Sicha of the week does. So we'll go there. But the Tanya says, whatever it takes, whatever you want to think about, and for every person it's different. Mm-hmm. Think about the greatness of Hashem, and then you're going to wake up, and then you're going to either wake up or create love and fear. But you could say this is all wonderful, but practically speaking, you're talking to a human being, and as much as I think about it, I'm never going to achieve real love and fear. Like, imagine you're driving down the highway, it's midnight, and you're going way above the speed limit, and all of a sudden you see a cop in the bushes. So what happens? There's a certain, in your body, there's a certain fear that you actually feel in your body. It's not something in the mind. You actually start feeling cold, hot, sweaty. You actually feel it. That fear, as much as I sit and I think about God, I'm not going to get that fear that my whole body is nervous and shaking and sweating. And the same thing is with love. If I love my spouse, or I love my child, or dear friend, whatever it is, that real love that you feel to somebody, it actually, when you love someone and you love them for real, that love, you could actually feel it in your body. You feel like you want to become close to them. You feel like you want to do something for them. It's a real love. So as a regular person, I could sit and I could think about the greatness of Hashem from today to tomorrow, but I'll never really feel a real love and fear like my animal soul feels a love and fear. So what do you want from me? Like, what's the plan? So the Alter Rebbe says as follows. He says, it's true. You may never come to feeling a love and a fear for God, the same kind of love and fear that your animal soul feels when the siren, when you see the red siren behind you on the highway, or when you truly feel a deep love for someone, right? Because if you were to feel that, you would be a tzaddik. Because a tzaddik, his emotions and his actions are on the same page. You may not ever get there. However, by thinking about the greatness of Hashem, everyone could choose what works for them, what thoughts they want to have, and we'll create the meditation in a few minutes. You could create something called tevuna. Tevuna, not to confuse with tnuva, the cheese, right? Okay. Tevuna is an appreciation for Hashem. So it's not an appreciation for His commandments, an appreciation for His Torah. So it's true that I don't have this passionate love, this passionate fear, but I know I appreciate Hashem. I appreciate His Torah and Mitzvos. I know that by doing it, this is the right thing. And so it's kind of like a pre-emotion, but that appreciation is good enough to get me to the next step. It's good enough to move my emotions a little bit closer to my behaviors.
Interesting. I once signed up to took this course. They called it the Devarim Bootcamp.
Wow.
And basically the concept was to do exercises to get yourself like Yeah, because we go on drive and we don't think the car coming up like the other way is just gonna crash into us. So why not?
Take
Why
it for
don't
granted,
why
yeah.
why do we have that trust? So it's like basically doing exercises to get to that safety. I don't know. I'm just like thinking about it because it's the same concept basically.
And did it work for you?
It did. I feel like it did. But I feel like it's an ongoing process.
the
It's not
time.
gonna be like a switch,
Right.
like you're saying.
Absolutely.
Now I'm like
Oh, it's constant work. Whatever it is, it's
Yes.
constant work. You
Yeah.
have to constantly remember it.
meaning
Absolutely.
it's not just safety that I now feel in my body and just automatically have trust.
Right.
Right.
But if you continue doing the work,
You have to
then
continue the work.
yeah.
So that safety that you feel that Hashem is holding you tight, that is what we're striving for. Now it could be that we won't have it every minute of every day. We might, right? But
So you could have it in the moment and then something happens and you have to
Challenge.
re-get
You have
that
to-
feeling.
yeah.
All our challenges every
Yeah.
day.
right, so absolutely. So that's what we're striving for. If we could actually feel in our bones that Hashem is holding us tight, then that's called a tzaddik moment. We actually feel it. But even if you don't feel it, it could feel a little bit, it could feel like fake, like an imitation, but you're trying your best. You're trying your best to create new emotions, and it's not on the same level as the fear of the police, or or the fear of, God forbid, if someone comes, if a person's in real danger, right? So you might not have the same fear, feel the same fear for God as you feel when a person's in danger, feels like they're really truly in danger. Welcome.
Mhm.
But
Because you have to identify that it's like your father, like there's a certain respect fear, it's a different kind of fear.
right, awe, an appreciation.
I think that's the difference.
Trust.
We now have that clarity that it's not always.
It might not always be on that high level.
Yeah, but to access it, you have the intellect to get to the emotion.
Absolutely,
Which is
absolutely.
literally what he was.
So the whole thing of Chabad, the
That's
whole work is to use the intellect. That's the whole work. So there's a verse that says, "Machshava taiva hakadosh baruch hu mitzarfa lemaaseh." If you have a good thought, Hashem combines it with a deed, which means, let's say, somebody wants a cup of coffee, or someone needs a cup of coffee. A teacher needs a cup of coffee. So a student gets up and goes and is going to the class, is going to leave the classroom to go get the teacher a cup of coffee. As her hand is on the doorknob to go get the coffee, another student walks in with the coffee already. So you were on the way to do a mitzvah, but now it's not necessary anymore because someone else did it.
Someone else did.
But it counts though,
Yeah.
right?
It counts because of the wheel.
Right. So that's the regular explanation of this verse. You have a good thought, you didn't get to do that deed.
But the thought.
If someone asks you for a favor and I really don't want to do it, and they say yes, when they don't need you for whatever reason.
Right.
But it counts.
Oh,
like,
that's-
but it counts.
Yes. It totally counts.
Right.
Because you are willing to do it, right?
Right.
Okay, now there's a deeper explanation, there's a deeper translation and explanation for this verse. Machshava taiva, you have a good thought. You don't have a real fear. You don't have a real love, but you have an appreciation for Hashem.
Mhm.
You have a good thought. You're trying to move your emotions up a notch. It doesn't, you see, because the verse doesn't say if you have a good thought, then Hashem will count it as if you did the mitzvah. Hashem, that's not what the pasuk says. The pasuk says, mitzarfa, Hashem combines it. The pasuk could have said, mala kosov. The Torah or God considers it as if you did the mitzvah. That's not what the verse says. The verse says that Hashem combines it, attaches it to the action. What does Hashem do? Hashem does a favor. He takes your pre-emotion or your artificial emotion or your trying emotion. You're trying so hard to create an emotion, and he attaches it to the mitzvah. And now what your mitzvah accomplishes is this in this world on a cosmic level is the same as the mitzvah that is the same as what a tzaddik accomplishes on a cosmic spiritual level. A tzaddik, when he did a mitzvah, his emotions were in sync with his actions. So his mitzvah pierced the heavens and accomplished the most amazing things. And Hashem will do that for you too. If you just try very hard to generate an emotion, even though you don't feel it in your body, maybe you feel it in your brain, but it didn't have that adrenaline rush in your body. But so what? You tried very hard to generate, but by thinking about it, the greatness of Hashem, and therefore Hashem is going to take this pre-emotion, this what you're working to, or this whatever you were able to muster up, and he is going to attach it to the action, and he's going to consider it as if you did the action with 100% emotion. That's what the verse means.
Like fake it till you make it. Like meaning like almost like just muster up emotion. No, meaning muster up the emotion, and then Hashem will do the rest.
Right. So fake it till you make it could mean just do the action. Doesn't matter where your emotion is.
Right.
So that's what up until chapter 15, that was the path that we took. So now we're saying we can't have the rubber band is being stretched too far apart. I'm forcing myself to do the action. My emotion is not there. I want to be somewhere else. I want to do something else. I'm not interested. But you sit down and you think about Hashem, whatever you want to think about Hashem, and then you try to create some kind of love and fear, even though it's not a love and fear that's in your bones. Might not be a fiery love and fear. You might not feel it in every fiber of your being.
It's a little fake, but you're doing it anyway.
You're doing it anyway. You're trying.
You're not really fake. You're not there yet.
Not there yet, right?
Yeah.
You're not there yet. You're trying. So that's not fake.
That's not
Fake
fake
it till
because
make
you
it.
have the
It's a
will.
shifting
You have
attitude.
the
Right.
will.
Right.
God will attach you to the
And
But you feel
master.
like you feel not
You're
like
doing the
it's
work.
like
You're working at it. You're working at it. Every person on their level, you're working at it. So I'm gonna just suggest. I'm going to suggest a meditation, but about thinking about the greatness of Hashem, like one possible route, and we're going to see it played full out in the teaching of the parsha, and you'll see what it and when I learned the teaching of the teaching of the parsha, and then I was reading the Tanya. I said, I don't see any connection, but then all of a sudden, I found the connection, and I actually felt adrenaline through my body. I actually felt excited. So, which proves that was a tzaddik moment, which proves that when we have the ability, if we have the ability that when we get excited about something, when we learn Torah, and all of a sudden it clicks, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. And then when it comes to doing the mitzvah, you're able to do it in a way where it's not white knuckling, where you're excited to do the mitzvah. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's so incredible. That's what we're trying to. That's where we're trying to go. So the meditation that I'm going to recommend, that we're going to explain, we're going to learn why it's such a powerful meditation is if we could meditate on the fact that Hashem's mitzvah, Hashem's instruction is the best thing in the world for us. There's a mitzvah, Shabbos candles, right? So when we go to light Shabbos candles, we may not feel the same love for Hashem or the same fear that we feel, that our animal soul feels, but we have we have the appreciation that we're doing the right thing. And we have an appreciation, we're doing the right thing, and we're bringing Shabbos in, and we have that, at least we have that appreciation. That's the tevuna that we're trying to reach. But if you're able to contemplate the fact that when I light Shabbos candles, Hashem is giving me the opportunity to do something that is the best thing in the world for me. And that makes that when I come to lighting Shabbos candles, I'm not huffing and puffing last second, but I make the effort to be ready a couple minutes early, to get dressed or sheitel, makeup, whatever it might be for you, to do it with more, to do it in a more beautiful way. Thinking about this fact that if it's Hashem's instruction, there's nothing better in the world for me than Hashem's instruction. Now I'm going to give you two examples. I'm going to give away the teaching of the parsha. I'm going to give you there's a method of teaching that you give the answer right away, and then you see how you came there. So I'm going to take that risk, okay? What's the difference between the golden calf and the kruvim? The golden kruvim that were on the golden aring in the Mishkan.
What'd you say?
We were commanded.
The-
They're both gold.
Mhm.
When we worship.
One was an instruction from Hashem, and one was something that we decided on our own. They're so similar. They're so similar. And the kruvim, Hashem's word came from between the kruvim. So when the Yidden made the Egel, they weren't so far off, because just a couple of months later, right? They were instructed to make a Mishkan and to have kruvim. When Hashem instructs it, it's the holiest, most beautiful, most amazing thing. When it's something that you decide, or that you forgot about Hashem for 1 minute, and your opinion sets in, it could lead to the most disastrous results. Another example. In this week's Torah portion, Moshe tells the Yidden, it's actually written in two places, but in this week's Torah portion, we find that Moshe says that when you cross the Jordan River, you're commanded, Hashem's commanding, I don't know which, I have to look in the Chumash to see, there's two different places where it's written, but the point is that once we crossed, I think here they had already crossed the Jordan River. Moshe taught the Torah in 70 languages, and it had to be written on stones. The translation of the Torah had to be engraved on stones in 70 different languages. And this was a commandment from Hashem. And it was told to the Yidden on two occasions, before they crossed the Jordan and after they crossed the Jordan. And so is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a very good thing. It's commanded from God. Then we have about 1,000 years later, there was a king. His name was Talmai. He was an Egyptian king, but he was the king of the whole Greek empire. And he wanted that the Jews should translate the Torah into Greek. And there was on more than one occasion. One time he wanted 5 sages to do it. Then it says that there were 70. There's a time they wanted 72. There's 3 different, I don't know if there were 3 different versions or 3 different times, that 72 or 5 or 70 sages should each be in a different room.
Right, that's what 70, it's also 70 there.
Same like this, and translate the Torah. And then if it's really true,
Then it's
All of them will
then
be
it'll all
the
be the
same.
same.
Right, wow, challenges.
Was that a good thing or a bad thing?
Bad thing. I don't know.
There was a very big danger.
Right. What happened
Because once you translate into a different language, there's possibility to make that when you translate, if you're translating it word for word,
right.
there's a possibility that people are going to misinterpret different things. For example, Bereshis bara Elokim. In the beginning, Hashem created. But if you're translating it, you could say Bereshis. There's a being called Bereshis. Bara Elokim, who created God. Bereshis created God. So if you're translating it literally, then the other nations Talmud I will say, there's more than one God.
Right.
So what do you do now? And you can't have a conference between all the people to decide what to translate. So when you come to translation, you can't just literally translate it. You
Right.
can't do that because
That's why I think even
You need to know the meaning.
art scroll, I think it was a very big controversy before they translated.
wow.
Mhm.
Like before we decided to eat Swatzon and allowed it, but before the Gemara was translated in it was like a very big decision.
Right,
to
right,
allow.
right. Because it's first of all, the Torah is the Hebrew language is holy. That's number one,
Right.
and there's a chance that mistakes will be made.
And also
Yeah.
the interpretation, there's many interpretations, which one the dictionary actually going to put.
Right.
Right.
It's
There's
a
no
huge
fear.
thing. It's
Yeah.
a huge thing.
Then
So
what happens?
when Hashem instructs, so what was the problem? It was already translated into Greek because Moshe did it.
Right.
So what's the problem? It was already done. When it's an instruction from Hashem, it's holy and it's good. When it comes from a king
Right.
who just wants to test
Exactly.
the Jews to see what their Torah is like, and all of a sudden it says that the day that the Jews had to translate the Torah into Greek was as there's a word that it was as let me get the word. It was as stressful. It was, I want to find it. It was as distressful for the Jewish people as the day on which the golden calf was made. That's how bad it was. Okay. So before we go anywhere, just this meditation, if you could just walk home with this meditation, that if it's an instruction from Hashem, it's going to work. It will make your life great.
Yes.
You're going to be blessed. It's the best thing in the world.
Right.
I might not see it at every moment, but that trust, if Hashem gave me an instruction to daven, to whatever it is, to light Shabbos candles, whatever it is, it's the best thing in the world for me. Just that itself, just thinking about that will make me excited to do the mitzvah. I once shared the story of a woman who was becoming religious, and it was right before Shabbos, and she realized that she wrote a check
Mhm.
and that she didn't have enough money in the account, and that if it's going to bounce, and she's going to have a $30, whatever, I don't know how much the charge is for the check to bounce. She had a choice. She could either run to the bank, and she had the cash, and deposit the cash, and then the check won't bounce, or to light Shabbos candles on time. So it could be, there goes a battle. But if a person realizes lighting Shabbos candles on time is the best thing in the world for me. You think, oh, if the check bounces, oh my goodness, my husband will be upset or whatever it is, right? But if a person knows lighting Shabbos candles, that is the best favor I could do for myself. She lit the Shabbos candle. And the check didn't bounce because the person didn't deposit it, whatever. But when you have that, and you see it, because you see kruvim and you see a egel. If Hashem instructs this, it's so similar. Moshe translated into Greek, or
Sometimes
Oh, God.
when making a decision between Hashem instructs, not everything's instructed so
Right.
clearly. And I'm saying a mitzvah,
True.
obviously, you know what I'm saying? But let's say to do that favor for the neighbor or whatever. I mean, a lot of things in our lives are not so black and
Correct.
white. It's still an instruction.
correct.
But
But
always-
what we have to ask ourselves is, to the best of my ability, Hashem, what do you want from me now?
Right. That's-
Hashem is
Right, because
front
if you think
center.
that said, if the neighbor asked, fell into your lap just at that time, it's almost like.
It's almost
a
what God tells you.
Right, but there's always where.
Yeah, that's a,
Sometimes step back and say, Hashem, what do you really want?
right. That's what we struggle. We struggle all the time.
Sometimes
Because
that's
it's
it
not-
and ask.
Right. It's not always so
That's
clear.
not really- that's it. You have to-
Yeah, that's why we have a mashpia. That's like, yeah. I'm saying it's not always easy.
No, but as soon as like listen to the messages. Hashem-
It's
Right.
never easy.
But sometimes we're.
But if we put Hashem in the center of our life and we're about to make a decision and just include Hashem, put him in the picture, you know what I'm saying? Hashem, get his opinion. And we try our best to make the right decision with the information that we have. Okay, so now we're going to go back into the teaching. We'll go from beginning to end, and we'll see such a beautiful teaching. Okay, so we said that in this week's parsha, Moshe is commanded to translate the Torah into 70 languages, right? And we said that when Talmai did it, when Talmai wanted it to get done, it was as stressful as the day that the golden calf was made. There's another time that says the same thing, that it was as stressful as the day that the golden calf was made, and that is there was a day where there was Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. It was two different schools of learning Torah. Beis Shammai the Beis Shammai, the students of Beis Shammai were rooted in Gevura, in severity, and the students of Beis Hillel are rooted in Chesed, in kindness. So usually, when the halachic decision had to be made, it was always the conclusion. The halacha always was according to Beis Hillel. There was a day that the room was full mostly of Shammai students, and Shammai locked the door. And that day, Hillel, basically he was the minority, and he was bound to sit like a student. He was humbled to sit like a student, and any halachic decisions that were made that day were all in the favor of Shammai. And that day is compared to the day that the golden calf was made. It was as what's the word that I keep? Okay. It was as distressful. Was as distressful as the day that the golden calf was made. So the fact that we have two things. We have Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. We have this halachic problem, the Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai situation, and we have the situation of Talmai wanting the Torah translated, and both of them are compared to the day that the golden calf was made. So there's a connection. What's going on here? The fact it's not just arbitrary that these three things are, there's a connection here, a deep connection here that we have to understand. So the day that the golden calf was made is not the day that the golden calf was served. They made the golden calf, and after the golden calf was made, Aharon told the Jews, tomorrow we're going to make a day of celebration for God. It wasn't on the same day. He was pushing them off. That night, when Aaron went to sleep, the golden calf is already in existence. Aaron still had hope that tomorrow would be a great day. Why? Moshe Rabbeinu will come down, which he ended up coming down anyway, and the Jewish people are going to see Moshe Rabbeinu, okay, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Why did the Jewish people make a golden calf?
They were tired to wait 40 days, for Moses, and
they miscalculated, and they came back. They thought that Moshe is not coming back.
Not coming.
Now, remember we were talking about having feeling it in your bones, feeling the love and fear of Hashem in our bones? Hashem created this world. Hashem's plan was that he wanted that we should be able to feel palpably in our body godliness or love and fear for God, right? So Hashem orchestrated everything that there should be a Moshe Rabbeinu, a human being who is godly, a human being whose sole purpose and mission is to connect Jews directly to God and to be an example of godliness on this earth. Or else how are we supposed to know what it looks like? So when it came to taking the Jews out of Egypt, God didn't just come and just swoop them out. He sent a Moshe Rabbeinu to speak to Parai, to speak to the Yidden. That's what Hashem wanted. Hashem wanted that there should be something called a Mimutza HaMachaber, an intermediary who connects you to Hashem. It's not like in other religions where there's, you pray to whoever, and then that person, that there's an intermediary that separates you between Hashem, that you have to serve that intermediary. No, that's other religions. But our religion, so we spoke about this other times, like the difference between you go to the grocery store and you buy your bread and your eggs, you never meet, or your vegetables, you never meet the actual farmer, right? So the grocery store is the intermediary between you and the farmer, but you never met the farmer. So there's a separation, there's a distance between you and the farmer. You will never meet him. That's not the kind of relationship that Hashem wants that we should have with him. Hashem wants the purpose of intermediary is like a shadchan. The purpose of the shadchan is not to be in your life. The purpose of the shadchan is just to introduce the girl to the boy, and then to step out, and we never hear about them again. Right? Right? So to connect, so Hashem created the world in a way there should be a human being who's an example of godliness, and he should connect you directly to Hashem. That's his mission. He has no ego or self-interest, anything. His sole purpose is to connect you to Hashem. Well, because there are two approaches. There's a Beis Hillel approach, and there's a Beis Shammai approach. Beis Shammai is Gvura, severity. Beis Shammai says this world is separate from Hashem. And what we have to do is we have to break the world and break the ego. That's Beis Shammai's approach. Yeah, I think so. Yes, yeah. Gvura. Yeah, exactly. We learned that a couple of weeks ago. Thank you. Beis Hillel's approach is we don't break the world. We reveal the potential in the world. We bring holiness into the world. So the Yidden said as follows. Moshe, and that's why the halacha is like Hillel. Because that's why the halacha is like Hillel. Because the truth is that the world is not, we're trying to reveal, we're not trying to prove that the world is separate from Hashem. We're trying to prove that the world is one with Hashem.
More kindness.
Yeah. And that happened, yeah. So the Yidden saw Moshe is not coming back. They said, what is Moshe? What's his task? What's his role? His role is to bring godliness into the world, to be an example, to show what it means, to show what it means to be a godly person. He's not coming back. So let's, on their own, it's not an instruction from Hashem, we're going to take it even one step further. Hashem gave a human being to influence the world. Why don't we go a step further? We're going to create an animal, which is lower than a human being. And this, we're going to bring the godliness down even lower into a golden calf. And this golden calf is going to be the intermediary between us and God. And they weren't so far off, because the Kruvim was basically kind of the same thing. The difference was that they did it on their own. It wasn't an instruction from Hashem. That was the problem. So really, they had good intentions. They had good intentions. And therefore, the second Moshe Rabbeinu comes down and says, your intention is to come closer to God. This is not the way, because the Hashem didn't tell us to do this. So immediately, what would they do? They would go realize their mistake and go back to having allegiance to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu would burn the golden calf, and then it would be a true Kiddush Hashem, and everyone would see the greatness of Hashem, and that Hashem's ways, that it has to be a human being that connects you directly to Hashem, not an animal. And it has to be through Hashem's instruction, not whatever you decide or what you think or your opinion. And then it could have been the greatest holiday in the world. Problem was that the Satan woke up the Jews very, very early that morning. And therefore, before Moshe had a chance to come down, they sinned. That's the story of the Egel. It was good intentions, and it could have been a big yontif. And what day was that? The day that Moshe Rabbeinu came down? That was Shivasar B'Tammuz. We just passed that. And Aaron said, Chag LaHashem Machar, tomorrow is going to be a holiday. And Machar could mean tomorrow, and it could also mean at a later date. Eventually, when Mashiach comes, Shivasar B'Tammuz is going to be a great holiday, as will Tisha B'Av, right? Everything's going to be turned around. Mm-hmm. So it was a prophecy for the future. Then it didn't work out for some reason. So why are the day that Talmai wanted the Torah to be translated, and the day that Shammai got his way and all the halacha was according to Shammai, why is that compared to the day that the Egel was made, not the day that the Egel was served? The day that the Egel was made, when there was a worry. There was a worry, will it be bad, will it be good? There was a worry, what's going to happen? But happens to be that both with Talmai and with Shammai, there was a worry, the same worry that there was in the day that the Egel was made was at that occasion, because there was a worry, what's going to be? If the Torah gets translated, then maybe people will misinterpret it, and then there's going to be a big problem. There was a big worry. But Hashem made a miracle. And all the 70 or 72 people that translated the Torah in different rooms all made 13 changes, the same exact 13 changes. And it ended up being a good thing, because now the Torah was translated into Greek, and even the non-Jews were able to learn Torah and to realize the greatness of Hashem. Mm-hmm. And how is it with Beis Shammai? There was a worry. That one day that Beis Shammai got his way and all the halacha was according to what Beis Shammai wanted, there was a worry that tomorrow it's the same thing's going to happen again. And the world can't, we can't, and in a slight way, it's a problem if Shammai gets his way. Because his whole way is based on this concept that the world feels separate from Hashem, which is a little bit like Avodah Zarah. Right? Mm-hmm. So his way is not the way. So the worry was that Beis Hillel is sitting here like a student, and he's humbled like a student, and what's going to be tomorrow? Is this always going to be that Beis Shammai always going to get his way? But the end was that no. The next day, no, everything went back to Hillel. And as a matter of fact, it influenced Shammai, that in some respect, some regard, some halachos, Shammai is even more lenient than Hillel in a few places. So Shammai ended up taking the back seat, and Hillel was the Nasi, and he was the one who the halacha was always paskined like Hillel.
They always said that it was between Hillel and Shammai, it's always like Hillel. Mm-hmm. But it didn't seem like it was because there was minority and like that. Here you said he was a minority, but
only that day, because Shammai locked the shul, so he locked the synagogue.
On a regular basis, was it because it was a minority, or was it because of just the way they ruled?
That's a good question, but I think that, but usually when we rule, it's a majority. Mm-hmm. Right. So. I know, but as I'm learning something new from this teaching, it does imply that Hillel was usually the majority, except that one day when the shul was locked.
The ruling, it was because of the minority.
Was because right. And how does this? What's the lesson for us? What's the takeaway? What's the takeaway for us? So besides this concept that how we see so clearly how the difference, the same action, because we always say the intention is what matters. But yes, the kavanah is what matters. Absolutely. But when you realize that it has to be your kavanah, it has to be in line with Hashem. It has to be in line with Hashem, and when it's Hashem's instruction, that's what makes all the difference. It could be it could be just like we say, you have two people doing the same action, and it's very different actions because one person had this intention, one person had that intention. But the same thing is what we're saying here is you can have two actions, and one is going to go really well, and one's going to go really sour, and it all depends on, was it an instruction from Hashem or not? So that's how I'm going back to the contemplation that if Hashem gave you a mitzvah, Razi, you said not always is it clear, but when it's clear, this is a mitzvah. Lighting Shabbos candles is a mitzvah. There's no two ways about it.
Clear. But when it's not, and it's interesting because I once heard something on intention. Intention is also like, some people put it like, oh, I have the right intention. I have the right intention, then you need it, not you need to carry it out, but you need to your intention this morning was, I'm not gonna yell at my kids. And then you're getting upset with the kids, getting riled up, and you're like, oh my God, Hashem, I had in mind. You have to remind yourself sometimes the intention, not just, oh, I put it out there and then Hashem is going to do the rest. No, you have to sometimes remind yourself, oh, minute, I had an intention to do this and this and this.
But that's where is the challenge.
No,
I agree with you.
It's not the way. Let's say my speech, my answering back at somebody, like how I'm sometimes very quick to.
And that's where it's harder when you meet the challenge.
Oh, minute, I have an intention that I'm going to work on that.
And
so
how you bring God into it.
Bring Hashem in it. Say,
yeah, but did it happen to you?
We had a deal, you were gonna help me.
Wait, did it happen to you, the awakening of Hashem, while you are getting upset with your kids or after the fact? While you're getting upset, did you caught yourself or not? Or it happened only after? That's where he sees the challenge. The challenging.
It's a challenge. It's not just putting an intention.
It's really not that, but when you meet a challenge,
it's a lot of concentration, a lot of
work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Catch yourself sooner, catch yourself even sooner.
Stay in your mind, keeping your mind focused.
Yeah.
It's not letting the emotions running.
Right, but when it's so hard because we're only human beings.
Instead of saying the big quote says it's all about the intention. It's not always all about the intention. Yeah.
When intention, but life is facing you with a challenge. And then what happens is
set you up.
You got upset.
And actually execute it.
So it's when if you wake up in the morning and you say it, so when you get challenged during the day, then you remember, oh wow.
Okay, I said that.
I don't think even it's about that you need to think about intention, is because life is full of challenges.
Right, but if you know you're down for, like I told you, I do chesed on Friday,
yes,
and then I just decided
but
maybe I don't want to do it. And then
I know, and as I
the
know,
whole week, if I only do it on Friday, then I should. This is my chesed day. Too bad on me. They're available on Friday, and that's what I do.
But that's
and then
different
I
than
call,
anger.
and then they weren't available. And
Right.
I'm like,
oh, at least you
I
know.
decided, hey,
Hey,
this is
I'm
Monday.
Right, but you know what? But that's different challenge. The kids challenge her. So her human nature, she got upset or whatever, upset at them and yelled. Now the point is, as a human being, when do you catch yourself? Okay, you yelling, you already did not control your emotion. No matter what intention was.
You say it, I'm gonna start with at the beginning of the day, and you say, Hashem, help me control my things because my kids are definitely going to challenge me. So then, as it happens, you already psyched out.
It's interesting because on Wednesdays and very tied into what you said when you say the carbon. Why do you bring the carbon? Just for the fact of what was
to come close,
to come close for no other reason, right? Just to come close. And so that even just saying carbonos and just saying, and it's so interesting because somebody was saying something, you bring two kvasim, one by mincha, one by shabbos. Heves is kovesh and sitro.
Wow.
Literally twice a day to remind Hashem, help me, I need your help with this and this, whatever. Every person, your Yetzirah is what it's hard for you. That's your Yetzirah. I don't know. I think I always thought of a Yetzirah like a sin is your Yetzirah, but I never thought of let's say I answer too quickly is my Yetzirah. So I could actually bring Hashem in and say, Hashem, we're a team. You're going to help me.
Absolutely.
And remind that, like you said, you're with Hashem.
Yeah, we discussed this last week. We said that a Beinani, he has two judges. He has the godly soul and the animal soul, each giving an opinion. And the Beinoni draws Hashem in. And it says, if not for Hashem helping him, he wouldn't be able to win. To draw Hashem in and say, Hashem, please help me. And then that's how the Beinoni is successful. That's the secret to success, is to draw Hashem in. So I want to bring two more points. One point is that the end the Torah was translated. It was a miracle that that there were 13 changes that were made, and the Torah became accessible to other nations as well. And the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he made it his business to get Torah and specifically Hasidic teachings to be translated into as many languages as possible. And when the Torah is translated into 70 languages, not only are the languages become holy, but also the nations become holy. Wow. And so the fact that the project of the Sichos is accessible to all of us in so many languages, this just means that the world is so much closer to Mashiach, that the world is so much more purified, that we find today that anyone can learn Chassidus in any language, or Torah in any language, that everything's translated. And yes, it's a big challenge to translate, because you can't translate it word for word. You have to really understand it to translate it properly, and it's a huge challenge, whether it be Gemara, whatever it is. But we see that it happened. Right, and that just shows that the languages are being elevated. That every single person has access to Torah today, which is all showing us how close we are to Mashiach. And I was just thinking even more, like for 3 years we were making an animated kids video for Project Likkutei Sichos, and all of a sudden, when that wasn't possible because my daughter was in camp, all of a sudden, not only is the teaching of the Rebbe being brought down into a poem, right? But we have kids from all over the world we're taking photos of the children, and the kids themselves are spreading are spreading the teachings from babies. Mendel Weinstein, he's not even 2 weeks old. He was already in both videos. So from the he can't understand anything, but from the tiniest age, they're involved in spreading the teachings. And someone said this to me years ago, when I even started this whole project, when I was doing Tanya poems. To bring down the teachings, not just that it's translated, but you could bring it down to a form of art. And there's someone else that if you could draw paintings about Tanya, whatever it is, the more we bring it down, the more we're showing that every part of everything, every form of art is one with Hashem. It's just an incredible thing. And the Rebbe, from this teaching, this is so special, because it's showing how the importance and the greatness of having the teachings translated into 70 languages. Wow. That's number one. And the second amazing point that gave me shivers was this concept of a Rebbe. Because at this very table, someone, time and again challenges me. Why can't I just have a direct connection to Hashem? Why do you need a Rebbe? I just want to be Jewish. Just connect to Hashem. I don't need anyone in the middle. I don't need anyone in between. But this teaching proves that since we're human beings, in order for us to feel the love, to feel the fear, that it should be in our bones, we have to be able to see a manifestation of it in this world. And that's what a tzaddik is. That's what a Rebbe is. So from this teaching, you could really show people who have this taina, who have this claim, and say, I don't need anyone to.
It's interesting, because in the Likkutei there's still a concept of a Rebbe. Not a Rebbe, but a Rebbe.
Right.
Because the world does need it.
It's funny because
You went to Chaim and you went to
even like I see my boys, let's say they don't, maybe some, as you live in Lakewood, and my husband might have been close to his Rebbe, but as Hasidus gets too big, somehow they lose that. I don't know why. But they have their Rebbes.
The personal Rebbe.
Like literally,
yeah.
I mean,
but it's interesting
my son is.
They have their must be a.
It's his. He went to yeshiva 17 to past high school, right? He went to base medrash, and he he's already at it in his third yeshiva. He does not move without him, like this whole engagement. So everything he does not like a Rebbe, like literally like a Rebbe. Like whatever Rabbi Goldstein tells me, I will do.
So I guess they each find their
So
own.
they
Right,
want
it's so
to know
important.
each
And
Right.
Rabbanim.
So exactly. So just like it was with Moshe Rabbeinu in the desert, right?
Mhm.
Moshe Rabbeinu didn't necessarily, if one person had a question, if the fork went into a meat pot, if the dairy, right? So there was a hierarchy of who to go to. You could ask. There were all different leaders, and then the toughest questions came to Moshe Rabbeinu because Moshe couldn't answer every single person's question individually. But we have to know that, and yes, so and it says in the Pirkei Avos, say Rav, make for yourself a Rav. Every single person has to have a Rav for those questions that are not black and white, that you don't know what to do. We have to have people in our lives that
feel like let's say Hashem, right? Hashem is like so far, like you need that intermediary, so you need to. That's how you bridge the gap between Hashem and you.
exactly. Those are the exact words.
So maybe like. Sometimes you think like, oh, you're part of Hasidic, you should be close to the Rebbe, but sometimes
You find other people.
you find
Yeah,
other people.
find
You
other
definitely need
Rabbanim.
someone.
But that word, the bridge, the Rebbe serves. So we have Rabbanim, absolutely, but at the end of the day, you have to at least know that there's a Rosh B'nai Yisrael, that there's a Rebbe. And you have to understand that as much the difference between a Rebbe and anybody else, is that it's not just how much Torah you know, and the more Torah you know, the more godly you are.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But there's a Rebbe is someone that doesn't just have a great Torah knowledge, but he actually has a neshama klalis. He actually has a general soul and is actually connected to every single person in an unbelievable way. So just this concept of a Rebbe, there are people that have issue with it. But when you learn this teaching, you understand the value that you need someone to be a bridge, because you're a human being and God is infinite.
I think people think they have an issue, but then when you see now that over the years, the Litvish people, they were treating Reb Chaim like a Rebbe. Reb Chaim said this, don't have this operation, do have this operation.
Yeah, they
So
did.
they definitely had what Chassidim call a Rebbe, and then they had Rabbanim.
You have to realize that there's a higher.
There is a higher.
Is that
You see, yeah,
there's
I agree with
substitute
you.
God, like-
He was closer like the
And
Rebbe. He was able to tell things
an argument, someone was like,
compared to
how ready to be
regular Rav.
someone
Yeah, they were special.
could share their struggles with me as well. And I was saying, like, I'd rather not. Obviously, I think they're human, but I don't need them to be telling me their struggles. And I feel like that's the difference, because I want to be able to look at someone who's God-like, like.
Right.
But that's what the difference between a Rebbe and a Rebbe.
Right, I agree.
So there was something going on. There was something going on YouTube. I don't know what it was on social media. I don't even know who it was, but looks like a great rabbi with a long white beard, an elderly man, and someone asked him a question: how can you be a manig hadar? Like, what do I need to do? Like, what did you do? What can I do to be a manig hadar, to be a leader of a generation? So he laughed. He said, if you have that question, you'll never get there. You know what I'm saying? A person who's a Rebbe, it has zero ego.
Meaning, like you might think that they know so much Torah and they're so much closer to God, but really, in the end of the day, they don't judge you. They love you for who you are.
Exactly.
Like, as soon as you're like, what? You're not judging me? Like, you say something and you're like, wow.
So sometimes what happens is when someone could learn so much Torah, there could be that they're great and they feel that they're great. But a Rebbe, the difference between a Rebbe is that a Rebbe, his existence, his identity is just to connect with God. There's no shred of any personal anything whatsoever.
They see every person as God's soul.
Right.
What they see is the soul.
Right.
They don't see your struggle. They don't.
They accept every Jew, not just because you're part of
Correct.
yeshiva.
Exactly. Or you don't like him or this and that. Right.
Some people are
Right. You should see that. So Not in self, they're just like.
So I want to, there was a point that I missed out before that I want to bring in now. Let's go back to the golden calf.
I said, I think people put people on pedestals.
Right.
I don't think people themselves put themselves on pedestals. I like.
That could be.
If
We're
you're
living in a very, you have to, that's the thing, you have to be
You
very,
go through terrible.
you have to be very careful, even what you consider a gadol, sometimes they could be an ego, so you have to choose wisely also, you have to be smart.
So one thing I could get,
We live in a very, very tough world, and also we are
They say the
judging.
manhigim
I
are
could
according
judge-
to the
I could
judge,
judge,
so.
I could judge this Rebbe, because I'm being judgmental, but his Hasidim, I'm not judging him. His Hasidim thinks he's wonderful and great. I'm just telling mom, it's wonderful. You know, it's just like, it's that kind of thing, because there are so many different people and so many different opinions on that kind of thing. But I think that those, when you look at it, I think they're not on a pedestal. People created the pedestal. Chaim never
100%.
walked out of his house basically, and people just were flocking and flocking and flocking. And if you read his history of like, you know, but his father was a great person, his father was a great person, and they just, however he became this Gadol Hadar, was accepted as a Gadol Hadar, you know? So that's really what it is. Or even if you go according to the Rebbe, how did he become this person? He became, it just, you know, he became, his father-in-law passed it on, and then he became, and he was accepted, and he was, we don't know how he was, but we put him on a pedestal. He wasn't on a pedestal.
Okay, so
He
that,
wasn't standing there thinking I'm
Right.
great and wonderful. He
So
said
that's
hi
a-
to everybody in the street on his way going home from 770, coming home from 770. All the little kids gave him dollars and quarters and whatever. So you want to say he was a regular person? He was not a regular person, but we put him on a pedestal. We needed him, and that's what we did, and that's what most people do. The people themselves are not on pedestals.
But you
I
can't
want to tell you a
compare the
story.
Rebbe to-
I want to tell you a story.
Exactly, Rebbe say, oh, I
You
agree.
can't compare him to regular Rob. There is a big
No,
difference
not a
between the
regular
Rebbe.
Rav, not a regular Rav. So a regular Rav is a different kind of caliber completely.
I'm going to tell you a story about what a Rebbe is. Okay, I just heard this the other day. There's a Rebbitzin in Italy, Milan, Italy. Her name is Rebbitzin Chelek. She's a Chabad shlucha in Italy, and they interviewed her. It was an excerpt from an interview. She and her husband were sent to Milan, Italy. I don't know how many years ago.
45.
Okay,
No.
and you know her?
I mean, I know the kids, so they were there, kids are 40 already.
So she was an American girl.
Mhm.
Her husband was a Russian boy. And they come to Italy, new language, new everything. And they're supposed to be shluchim, you know.
Yeah.
And so you could imagine 45 years ago, it wasn't an easy feat at all. And Rabbi Chelek, he was dying to go back to 770 to the Rebbe. And after 8 months of being on Sichos, he made a trip to New York to see the Rebbe. And when he would come to the Rebbe, the Rebbe was, he wouldn't open his mouth before the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said to him in a private audience, he said, I know you're not going to answer me because, you know, but I want you to write down for me about your relationship between you and your wife.
Wow.
That was on a Tuesday, I believe. And then he came in like 2 days later for another private audience, and he gave the Rebbe, he wrote to the Rebbe about his relationship with his wife. And at the end of the letter, he wrote, I hope I didn't like say too much, too many compliments about my wife. The Rebbe looked at the Rebbe letter. The Rebbe crossed out the word I can't remember the Hebrew line, but the word that would imply that was too many, he crossed it out and he underlined the word compliments. And then he asked Rabbi Chelek, what are you bringing home for your wife after this trip? So he said, I'm bringing home cake. Or he said, whatever, he's going to bring home cake. And his wife was such a nasher and there was no cake to buy, you know. And so the Rebbe said, what about gold? He said, I think you should bring her home a gift, a gold watch. And at that time, Rabbi Simpson, there was the Simpson Jewelers.
Right.
So he was just starting up his jewelry company, and he was asked to come with a suitcase of watches to the Rebbe's secretary, to the office. And these guys, they're looking at the watches. The Rebbe, listen, they brought I could show you the interview. They brought the suitcase into the Rebbe's room, and the Rebbe said, he was traveling back to Milan, if there's time, take the face of this watch and the band of this watch.
Wow.
And if not, this watch.
Wow. Wow.
The Rebbe wasn't just somebody who learned a lot of Torah.
Exactly.
The Rebbe understood and appreciated and loved every Jew. There was a shlucha who's in Italy, American girl. Her husband's gonna bring home cake, but he knew, he cared. He cared that she should have
a gold
watch.
So
This is very why when you visit my friends who are shulchan, you really have to be best friends, the husband and wife. You know, when you live here or wherever you live, you have relationships, you have kids, you have to be best friends.
Absolutely.
You're in like some love.
She said in this interview, she says, I could forward it to you.
Yeah.
She said, when her husband came home,
yeah.
whatever she would have wanted, he would have given her. He said, if I would have asked for the moon, my husband would have gotten me the moon, because the Rebbe showed him what it means to respect your wife.
Wow.
And he said, in 65 years of their marriage, my husband never criticized me once.
Wow.
She says that on the interview.
That's amazing. Wow. You have to send us the video.
So I'm saying a Rebbe.
You're coming out there to a totally strange place. You need to work together.
Absolutely.
If you're not working together,
it will never happen.
Right, and then each
people are
person is struggling.
People
looking up to you.
Have friends and people. He's there with people, like you said, he wanted to go home. He wasn't interested.
I think
So,
every
like,
husband should have training with Kabbalah.
Not to say you're
I wish my husband would do that.
You're my
He'll be a
But
different
the Rebbe cared about a relationship between every husband and wife, and it was I'm saying it was a lesson for you know.
It's amazing.
So
remember that one with what was it with the people? He was scared. She was upset that she gets angry quickly, and the Rebbe said something about. But in the like they had the party Yichidus, and then he went in afterwards and said, maybe I shouldn't get married because I tend to get really angry. Did you see that?
It sounds familiar.
And then he said, what did he say? He wished her on having a lot of kids, and it'll dissipate. Like
you'll have to become patient.
You know, or something. I have to.
It's amazing.
So the Rebbe cared about every aspect of every Jew.
He also sent you to Mars. You have to keep a little direction. You know, people go away after a year. You know, they don't have their parents showing them, and you know, here they come and go every single day for suppers. There, you're away in 6 months.
Exactly.
You're like I said, all these people. I always wonder, how do you communicate? My sister went to a Russian camp. And you think, how did they communicate? I went to Russia and one of the people gave a speech there. It's just really funny. What are you saying and how are they understanding you? So it takes time to learn Russian and Greek
absolutely.
and Spanish, you know, and people are doing it. So it's just.
My brother's going to school to learn Icelandic. He's in Iceland.
But he's there for a while already.
Yeah.
But listen, the Rebbe chose special people. Not every person could do that. Not every shaliach.
But so many shluchim
but
many more shluchim went out on shluchos after they passed away.
So
Much more than
who chose them?
So
they applied, but when
They applied, and who chose
when
them?
he was doing it, when the Rebbe was doing it, I remember some people who are a little older than me, like 10 people were sent to Israel.
Right.
And then they eventually stayed. 1 or 2 came back and they eventually stayed. Then there were people who went to Morocco.
All with the Rebbe.
After he became Rebbe, he sent people to Morocco.
Right.
There were certain countries that he sent. And then
But
afterwards.
he chose them.
became-
What I'm trying to say,
He chose them.
Yeah.
So
That's
they were in
special.
Shiva and how
This is that couple that was on something or in Minnesota, we're like, so they said like, they're suffering, like they adopted many children. It was
Yeah.
also like, wow.
Montana.
I mean,
They're very special. But who chose them after the Rebbe
So
died?
after they passed away, when a couple, this is what they wanted to do.
Okay.
And the way it is in Chabad is that there's a head of country, a head of state. So you apply, or you get permission, or you from the head of state or the head of county, or to go.
And I'm going to check it out. So we went to cousins of hers, as a matter of fact. We went to Cabo, Mexico. And we like to meet the shluchim that are there, because my husband laughs, like, because it's my friend's kids or whatever it was. And here I said, there's no way I'm going to know them anymore. I knew everything about her more than she knew about herself. And she said that somehow someone had asked them to come there, and they went to check it out, and they decided it wasn't for them. It wasn't for them. They figured it out. So some people need more, and less, need this. They need more people. Anyway, a few years later, they went again. They checked it out, and they decided they were going.
Wow.
They went. 6 months later, there was something, I don't remember what, and everybody left, because it seems like there were a lot of Israelis after they did their army duty. They came and they would open up these different shops, the souvenir shops, all along the whole area, and they were making a lot of money. And then something happened, not an epidemic, some kind of weird epidemic, and now they're left all by themselves. It was the craziest thing, I guess, like you say, Hashem sent, because this is what was planned to be done, and then they're still there, but just
the secret of success of Chabad Shluchim, because there are other people from other groups that also go to do Kiruv.
Right.
The secret is for every single one of us, and for the Shluchim, obviously, is to be connected to the Rebbe, who connects you to Hashem. And the second that you feel that you are your own identity, that you don't need anyone else, that's when the trouble starts. How do we see this from the Egel? What happened? Where did they get the idea to make a golden calf? Where did they get the idea from? The Kruvim look like people. Look like people. What happened was, by Matan Torah, basically everything was revealed to the Jews, and in heaven they saw God's chariot. A chariot is subservient to its rider. Now, in the chariot, there are different faces, and there was a face of an ox. So when they wanted to make the Ega, what do? They separated the ox from the chariot. They separated it, and they said, oh, we're going to make an ox down here. As long as the ox is up there, part of the chariot, part of subservient to God, it's holy and great. The second you uproot it, you take it away, and you say you separate it from the chariot of God, that's where the trouble happens. As long as you're connected, you're safe, you're good, you'll accomplish good stuff. The second you feel that you're your own, you have your own power, you're successful, I don't need anybody, I don't need anyone's blessings, that's when the trouble starts. And every single one of us, we have to realize that we are who we are, that we're Yidden, that we can make a Kiddush Hashem, that our job is to be, just like the Rebbe is in this world, an example of godliness, as his shluchim, as his emissaries, as from a Yidden. We have to realize that we have that responsibility too, to be a light for the nations, to show the world what it means, to act in a godly way. And I'll just end up with this tiny thing. I was looking through my email this morning, and I saw Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson. He sent the email about his sermon. So you have to purchase the sermon in order to, but it has a little bit about what the sermon is going to be. And I'm not really on social media that much, but there's something that just went viral, and that is that there was a French YouTuber who went in the middle of a very, very busy marketplace thing, and he took a bottle of gasoline.
We're gonna tell them, but then he
No,
said,
no, no, this is something else. This is something else. And he poured it on his head. And he took a lighter.
Oh, I saw that.
You saw a lighter?
Viral.
And he wanted to
Yes.
burn himself
And
up.
himself up and the
A
full
from
guy,
kid
full
with a
kid.
yarmulke on
With the
tzitzis
yarmulke
came and knocked the
Standing, yeah. in
he's
France.
he's
It
a
was from France.
knocked the lighter,
Knock the lighter.
Saved his life and
Saved his life.
and everyone else is just standing around the
I
city
know,
watching. No one's doing
Watching
anything.
nothing. I know.
What?
It went
No, it was a
viral.
social experiment. It was a social experiment to see what's going to happen if a guy in the middle of a busy street, you know, is
Would
going to
go
dump a
something
barrel of
crazy.
gasoline on his head
And would light it.
and ready to light himself. And is anyone going to do anything? And nobody did anything except for a Jewish teenager, a frum teenager with yarmulke and tzitzis. And that's going to go viral all over the place.
It went already viral.
It went already viral.
Yes.
The point is that we have to
Be the light.
we have to be the light. We have to be expression of godliness on this earth, and to know and to contemplate that that Hashem is one. Hashem is one with His Torah, and the Torah and Mitzvos. By fulfilling them, it's not a burden. It's not a burden, but it's the best thing for us. And it's just going to bring us goodness in our life and to the whole world. And when we contemplate this, this will help our emotions to rise one rung up, to be in sync with our behaviors. And that's how the Tanya and the teacher. The parsha talks about Moshe writing the translating the Torah into 70 languages on the stones, which is, and then because of that, we brought about Talmai. We said the difference between Talmai and Moshe Rabbeinu is that Talmai wasn't an instruction from Hashem versus Moshe Rabbeinu that was instruction from Hashem, and we said that day was compared to the day that Egel was made. So that's how the Egel got involved. But the point is, it's just so beautiful how Torah is, how everything is so one and so connected, and this should have an effect also on our body, that our love and our fear for Hashem should be real, and should be up one notch, so that, as Tanya explains, that we should be able to have in sync, that our emotions and our actions should be in sync with each other, and to have a tzaddik moment as much as possible until Hashem will reveal, until these days and the 3 weeks will be transformed, and we'll have Mashiach, and everyone will see the truth and the greatness of Hashem, and that's when we'll all be tzaddikim, and the emotions and the behaviors will absolutely be 100% on the same page. Okay.
Beautiful.
Hashem.
That's beautiful.